Clearing land for new farms was tough work in the 1800s, but in Grey County, just south of Owen Sound and west of Collingwood, a group of Black pioneers did that work gladly as they established a new community and set down roots. It came to be known as the Negro Creek Settlement, and its history holds many lessons for today. Let's find out more from Nancy Lee, who is a researcher and genealogist and descendant of one of the original settlers there, and Ben Haywood McLeod, a community organizer and filmmaker. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you.
All right. So Nancy, I'm going to start with you. I know you have a request to share some of the Black pioneers from your research. Who are these people?
They were Lewis and Caroline Armstrong. They were Fielder and Ann Bowie, Isaiah and Catherine Chucky, James and Ellen Douglas, William and Maria Barnes Gordon, Elias and Louisa Earls, Henry and Priscilla Miller, Thomas Henry Miller Sr., Gazaway and Melinda Ross, Scott and Rachel White, and William and Jane Woods.
Now, that's not the first time that you recite that list. That's a list that you say all the time.
Yeah.
Why is it important that you do that?
It's important that we remember them. It's important that their names are said aloud so people don't forget.
All right. Ben, you have been collaborating on the website Negro Creek Archive, where you share the research on Black families who were amongst the pioneers of Grey County, Ontario in 1851. What brought the two of you together to work on this?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing the names. I also feel like it brings them to the forefront in these conversations. And, you know, personally, when I'm coming up here, I'm bringing a lot of people with me. And those names are some of those people on that list. We got to know each other because I found Nancy through some of the research work that she's done. And I grew up right near Negro Creek. Mm-hmm. So it was a regular part of my day-to-day life. We would pass the road sign often when I was growing up. And to be honest with you, I didn't think very much about it. It just sort of was naturalized. It was in the landscape. But coming back home with my partner, who is not white, all of a sudden I was struck with the seemingly offensive and derogatory nature of this road marker. And we got to work on figuring out what we were going to do about that. Initially, I thought, okay, this sign needs to go. Clearly, it's offensive in this day and age. But it was only through reaching out and listening to the descendants of the original families of that area that I learned a vibrant history of my hometown that I otherwise hadn't known.
All right. Curious, how did that relationship for you sort of start as well?
The relationship to finding my ancestor?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, with Ben. We'll start with Ben, yeah.
Our relationship, Nancy. It's all coming out now.
Ben called me out of the blue and said that he had heard about the research that I had been doing from a few people and told me what he was trying to do and would I be interested in sitting down and meeting and just talking about the history, and because nobody, I think, was sure what we wanted to do at first.
That was the thing, is these road signs kept on getting vandalized and stolen. Mm-hmm. And so clearly and locally, there wasn't a lot of knowledge of the history. And so the idea was, let's bring in the experts, the descendants, the chief genealogists and archivists, and other descendants, Black history experts, but also neighbors who are living on the road, local farmers, my mom, just getting everybody together to figure out, okay, what are we gonna do about this history that has been forgotten and has been erased for far too long?
So we got together and we had our first gathering almost 2 years ago. And I talked about the history that I'd already gathered and the research that I'd already done. And Ben had done preliminary research on the census of 1851 and 52. And so we talked about that. We expanded. We gave knowledge and honor to the Saugeen and Ojibwe nations for being the original caretakers. And Adam was there. to represent them. So we could talk about the entire history of the area, and then started expanding on the community and how the community must have reacted with those Black folk who were there.
I want to follow up with you, Nancy. You spent years going through the archives and digging into your family history.
Yeah.
Curious, how has your intention evolved over time?
You know, when I first started to look for my roots, almost 30 years ago, I didn't know where I was going. Ben's heard me say this a million times. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get there. And the road it took me was up the Garifraxa, which is now Highway 6, and it took me to Henry Miller's farm. Took me into Owen Sound, originally into their archives, and then I found, as I call him fondly, Old Henry, and connected the dots through the research and the documentation that I eventually found to prove that I belonged to him, or more importantly, he belonged to me. And for me, that was probably a huge turning point in my life and my sister's life. She was with me when we made that final connection, when we found the will, when we saw the names, when all of a sudden everything that I'd been doing for years just kind of went boom, 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 and fell into place. It was really emotional. One of my daughters was there, my sister's daughter. My sister got weepy, I got weepy, because we knew we'd found him. We knew we'd found home.
It's amazing. Ben, why do you think this piece of little-known history is important, not only to the descendants, but all Ontarians?
Yeah, I think oftentimes in Ontario, in Canada, we're realizing that certain stories have come to the forefront. It's a storied landscape, it's a storied geography, but other stories have been left in the margins. And we're all lesser because of that. Locally, I know that these stories have opened up doorways for people to reconnect with their own roots, because there are still descendants of these original Black settlers in the area, whether they know it or not, because there's a lot of, this wasn't a segregated community.
No.
You know, there was interactions with the Scottish neighbors, with the Irish neighbors, with all kinds of folks.
There was a lot of interracial marriages and relationships that went on quite regularly, eh, Ben?
Yeah.
It was quite normal. There was nothing unusual. Nobody raised an eyebrow back then. I'm not sure why it got to the point where it wasn't okay. But in those 1840s, 50s, 60s, right into the turn of the century, up in Grey County, it was quite normal to have these interracial relationships.
I want to follow up, Nancy. And you talk about the amount of years that you put into the research. I saw the binder off camera with all of the information there. Why is it more difficult to trace the origins of Black settlers when, say, compared to white counterparts?
Well, we get to a wall. In my case, my Black ancestors came up on the Underground Railroad. So when I take them back past the time where I can document them, I can document Henry and his son Thomas Henry in Toronto in the 1837 time frame. I'm quite sure they were mixed up with the rebellion, as a lot of formerly enslaved people were at the time. I know they came up from Maryland. So once I get back there, once I cross that river and I'm back into the States, you hit a brick wall. I've had some chances to think that I'm close to that plantation. No, there's a name that's been floating around the family for years. Whether it is actually, I have my DNA, and I do know that I'm related to white folk from down there that are obviously the former owners. DNA, which is a tug.
I was going to say.
That's a difficult, it was very difficult for me personally at first, recognizing that I'm related to them, and this wasn't a consensual relationship, like I'd be, say, related to my mother's family in England, because that's a marriage there. So when that first hits you, it's a bit of a setback, because you're looking for your Black roots. You're trying to find those steps that your ancestors took. Because in my work, that's what's important to me. I want to walk the road. I want to feel what they felt. You know, I often think when Henry was on his land and he had that piece of paper, and I can just imagine how he must have felt. He's on this land that he knows is his, and he's lying there and he's looking up at the stars and he's got this piece of paper that he cannot read, right. But he knows it says this is his. And for the first time in his life, he realizes he owns something. And he's not the something that's being owned.
All right, Nancy, a big part of your research, of course, revolves around the family tree of your ancestor, Henry Miller. You found the will of Henry Miller in which he asked his land to be inherited by his descendants. What was the significance of that?
Well, he was ensuring that the land that gave him freedom was going to stay within his family. So he made, he documented it that the farm was going to his son, Thomas Henry Miller Sr., and it could not be sold while he was alive. So for at least his son's lifetime, he was ensuring that it would stay within the family. All that hard work that he did was going to stay within the family, and it did.
What did it mean to own farmland in Ontario as a Black person in the 1800s?
I think it meant everything. It meant everything. Just like as I said before, you know, you own something instead of being the something that is owned. You know, you found freedom. You have a chance to live the life that you choose, not the life that someone else is forcing you to live. So when you have that piece of land and that you can raise your family, your descendants, and it's yours. And as long as you work hard, which they're not above doing because they know what hard work is, probably better than most, I think it was everything to them.
Ben, you were one of the creators behind the short film As Is, Where Is. We actually have a clip of that. We're going to play a little short clip right now.
So hard. You're thinking about it. What my people went through.
It's a short little snippet there. They're definitely going to have to check to watch that. But tell me about sort of that process in terms of connecting with a lot of those stories. You can see the emotion behind it. But what do you hope this film brings to viewers?
Yeah, so in terms of the process, basically, after I found out about the history of this place and the road sign and the lack of awareness, I went to Carolyn and Sylvia Wilson, who run a Black History and Culture Museum right outside of Meaford, Collingwood area. And we sat down and we talked and figured out, okay, well, how can I bring my skills to this? And I knew that I had some great friends, Michaela, who is the director, and Jason, who's the co-director, super talented people. And I said, okay, well, let's spend the summer and let's tell this story. Let's meet some people. So we met the neighbors, we met descendants, and we held those stories with them. Now, in my case, we made the film, we were very happy with it, and I'd be so happy if folks watched it and enjoyed it as well. But the relationships that were created because of that film extended well beyond the film. So neighbors were now getting in touch with me when the road sign was being stolen. And then I was getting in touch with descendants, and it was sort of on me to break the news to them that the only monument to their history was disappearing so often. So that's sort of how it happened. It was a network, and it was a network that formed, and it's been a network that has turned into something that's quite important for me. And that clip of Gail, just there earlier, she just launched a book of hers, and I was so happy to be there at her book launch. And it had a whole bunch of local support too.
And Gail's my second cousin,
That's
by the way.
right, yeah.
Gail and I are both descended from Henry and Priscilla Miller and Thomas Henry Miller, so we come right down that line.
Right.
I'm from his oldest son, Thomas Henry Miller Sr.'s oldest son, and Gail is from almost his youngest son. So there's like a 45 year difference.
Did you know Gail before you did your journey?
Gail and I had met a while back. I had presented my branch of the family tree at the Emancipation Celebration Festival, which Thomas Henry Miller Sr. is a co-founder of. This year will be its 161st continuous year of celebrating the emancipation from the British emancipation. So I met Gail's older brother first, and I presented our branch of the family tree, and he came up and met me and had me walk with him, and we had a lovely talk, and he told Gail about me, and we reached out, and we became pen pals, basically, and chatting. And the first time we physically met, funny enough, because we kept passing. We would be at the same thing and be so many people, and we just missed each other. And it was at Ben's first gathering. And when I walked in, her and I both busted out crying.
Yeah.
Because for years we had been talking and emailing and texting and sharing our separate family branch stories. And then we finally got to meet. She is an absolute lovely woman.
All right, I'm going to follow up on the family tree, but I want to come to Ben first. Mentioned a meeting here, and I want to talk about, we mentioned the lands that this was first on, and when we talk about the settlers, but we talk about Saugeen and Ojibwe nations, and your group had First Nation members join your committee meetings, and I think this is a very interesting sort of way that understanding how the relationships with First Nations and different settlers. So Ben, what's the significance about understanding the difference between settler communities?
Sure. So from the get-go, if you're in Canada, you're on treaty lands. So we recognized that we were on Treaty 45.5 territory locally. And what that meant was that the traditional stewards and the ancestral stewards of those lands were the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Chippewas of Nawash and the Chippewas of Saugeen. And what that meant is that in the work, it's a work about sort of addressing histories, beautiful histories, but also histories of dispossession, of violence, of which there are many connections between Black and Indigenous stories there. It's about addressing that in a way that rebuilds kinship relationships, which is to say that, Gail and Nancy are reuniting, building strong bonds again. It also means that we're getting to know our Indigenous friends and neighbors. I was getting to know my Williamsford friends and neighbors. And I mean, I've said this before, so is my family. Like it was really important to me that those gatherings were a time where we could, in some way, live out the legacy of the history, which is to say, it was a place for freedom, it was a place for emancipation, it was a place for liberation, and it was important that that was clear each step along the way. So, I mean, having First Nation members, chiefly our friend Adam from the Environment Office present, meant that the conversation around how we were going to preserve and commemorate this history was markedly different than it would be without including them.
How so?
Well, for one thing, honoring the connections between Black and Indigenous. So this is getting kind of into the weeds a little bit, but in the 90s, the road name was changed by the township. They changed it because it was politically incorrect, they said. Now, they changed it to a white settler's name, thereby erasing the Black history in general. And at that township meeting, when descendants and community friends came together 28 years ago, First Nation members were present there in solidarity as well.
Awesome.
And that was Adam's father. So, and others, and others. And
it's always been important to include and to honor their presence for all of us, and
That's right.
as descendants, and even as in Ben's, I won't say job, but what Ben's done within the community and worked towards. We just kind of took it for granted, didn't we?
Yeah.
This is just something you should do. Like, if we don't want our history erased, we're fighting to keep that. And so are they, even more so, because they were here first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating, interesting. In terms of that relationship. Nancy, I want to go back to the family tree.
Yeah.
That family tree has now expanded. You have 5 children.
I have 6
6 children.
Yes.
8 grandchildren
so far.
so far.
Yeah.
What kind of impact do you hope your research brings to their identities? And I, you sort of talked about that tug. That how do you reconcile some of these histories that you may not want that do hurt,
Yeah.
but are an important part of
You
history?
know, I'm multiracial. So, and my mother happens to be white. She was a young girl from Carlisle, England, when she came here. So, and my father, even though identifying as a black man, both his parents were multiracial. His father, who was from Maysville, Kentucky, and came up to Canada in 1914, was multiracial. His mother, who is a miller, was multiracial. It's important that my kids, I think all children, should understand where they come from, but more importantly, who they come from. As I've learned, and I've shared what I've learned with my children, I think the pride that they knew was in me, because I've always been really comfortable in my skin. I understood exactly what the two sides were, but I was very comfortable in my skin. For me, I wanted my kids to be comfortable in their skin no matter what shade it was. And the pride that they feel, they share that with me, from me telling them the stories. Not just about old Henry, but everybody down, right down to my dad, and then all the way back up. It's important, I think, for every child to know, because if they didn't walk their road, we're not walking ours.
Right.
And even for my grandkids, they're very proud of knowing where they are. If I can take a second, my little grandson was in school this month, and it's Black History, and they're teaching Black History. Well, they were talking about Obama and Frederick Douglass, and Mr. Obama's a very nice man, and he videoed me because we were away down in Mexico.
Mr. Obama?
And Mr. Obama was was a very nice man, and he wanted to tell me about it.
Right.
And he also wanted to remind me that he did put his hand up, and he was very proud of the fact that his Grammy was black and she lived there in Barrie. So I don't know if he recognized that it was different history, because it's Black history. But the point to me was that he was proud of me.
That's awesome.
And of the color that I was, because it didn't make any difference. And that and he also told his teacher he had other things in him, like he was part Indigenous, and he was French, and he was German. And he's probably what everybody's going to be in another 50 to 100 years. And as I like to tell him, you're the first, but it's that he recognizes, as a 7-year-old child, how important it is to be proud of who he is.
That is awesome.
And that's all I want to give my kids and my grandkids.
We have about a minute left. I have a question for both of you. I'm going to come to Ben first. In your opinion, how should history be told and taught?
Well, for one thing, connecting to Nancy's story about her grandson, I think that we would do well to pay attention to what's in our own backyards, to learn the history of the land that we are on, because that's going to be the most meaningful, and I think it's going to allow us to find our roots wherever we end up. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful that the descendant community is so strongly attached to their roots. And I know that for some neighbors of mine, because of various histories of dispossession or whatever, they aren't able to find their genealogical roots. But at the very least, they can find their roots in the land.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one piece, is find out what's in your own backyard and listen to the stories in the margins. The second piece is listen to the voices that for so long have been silenced, and learn the stories about your hometown or your area, your city, that haven't been acknowledged for a long time, because you might learn something about yourself, and you might learn something about where you're from.
Get the last word, Nancy.
Well, Ben and I talk about this all the time, about, why can't history, when they teach it, be the way it was lived? And that's what I always say to Ben. That's my dream. That when they teach history, that it's going to be about the way it was lived, not about Joe Smythe, who was an Englishman, and Mr. McLeod, who was a Scottishman, but about everybody, including Henry Miller and William Gordon, who happened to be men of color. It doesn't necessarily have to be, it should never be separated. Just tell us the way it was lived, and then we'll have the true history of who we all are. And I think that's the important thing. That's what I strive to do.
Nancy, Ben, thank you so much for your stories and shedding light
Thank
on the
you.
history of Ontario.
Thank you for having us.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.